Chapter 2. The Offer. DJ watched Sam Kenny dial in adjustments to his scope, preparing to move from a 300-meter target to another 800 meters away. Most everyone just called him Proby, but DJ referred to him as Dooley. The man had two first names, or at least his last name sounded like a first name, so dual names, or Dooley. Like a dually truck with its double sets of back tires. Since DJ rarely heard a dually pickup pronounced properly, he stuck with the more popular vernacular of Dooley. DJ had to admit, the man was a gifted long-distance shooter. Using a rifle from the prone position seemed easy for the vet. Whatever he fired, regardless of caliber or action, it was about as natural to him as scratching his chin. And with that silly-looking goatee, Dooley scratched his chin a lot. From just accuracy alone, Dooley was DJ's equal. That was saying a lot, because DJ could shoot. If it had a trigger, DJ felt right at home behind whatever it was. But in some ways, Dooley was better than DJ. Not only did Dooley have an innate sense of balance for the many variables that must be juggled to achieve near-perfect marksmanship, but the man didn't need a dope book. All the combinations of elements between the rifle, the round, and the environmental conditions that all serious snipers jotted down in a book or app to refer to later, Dooley logged into his brain. Ask him a question about anything that might appear there, and Dooley could quote it to you and then back it up with results. This made Dooley better than DJ. DJ had a dope book, but most of his skills came from a seat-of-the-pants feel for what he was doing. Dooley had that natural feel for shooting, but he also had a deep understanding of the data that went into each shot. Dooley finished his changes to the scope, made sure his rifle was level, glanced at the flag indicator at the 400-meter mark for wind changes, then easily rang the 10-inch gong. Dooley immediately cleared the rifle and jumped to a standing position, at which point DJ stopped the timer on his phone. Before he could tell the man he had just bested his previous record by over a second, DJ could make out the approaching sound of a helicopter. Whatever it was big. It had the slower whomp of longer rotor blades. This was no news or police chopper. It was a heavy lift transport of some kind. Probably military. It sounded familiar. Get your stuff into the UTV. I think we're about to have visitors. DJ was running the little utility vehicle flat out when he broke through the trees, just in time to see the Sea Stallion come floating over a nearby ridge. A Sea Stallion was a big Navy helicopter, capable of carrying 36 men, a bunch of their equipment, and even all-terrain vehicles, for getting them closer to their objective. The bird was flying low, only 100 feet or so over the wooded terrain that surrounded the farm. As DJ swung in front of the barn, the giant gray helicopter passed over and then banked in a long circle, scrubbing speed and angling for the field nearby. This was making DJ nervous. It was out of the ordinary, and it made him wonder if they were in some kind of trouble. Had they crossed some line he was unaware of? Brett Foster was sharing similar feelings. As DJ slid to a halt, the man was leaning forward in his red wheelchair, barking orders to Carbon, telling him to prepare to kill their servers. The hacker had long ago set up a plan to erase their computers, just in case their government friends turned into their government enemies and decided to hang them out to dry for some reason. All around him, the team had come out to see what was going on. For Dooley's 30-day evaluation and training period, DJ had requested the entire team stay on site to participate and let the newbie get to know the people he would be working with. All had gathered in front of the barn, watching with suspicion. A few even had weapons loaded and at the ready. DJ snapped at them. If we were going to be attacked, do you really think they would make such a loud approach? Put those away. Even if they've come to burn us, we don't shoot our own people. Everybody relax. Many of the team had worried that someday the CIA would burn the team, sever their connection, and throw them under the bus. They didn't trust the CIA, even though many of their contracts came from the agency. The clandestine organization would never accept blame for anything, the team grumbled. The CIA would point fingers at their operation and claim DJ and his group had acted without authorization. It was something DJ brought up to his CIA contact at the very beginning. "I'll be honest. I don't trust you guys," DJ told Alamayu Solana, their handler, when approached about the opportunity. Ali had smiled at the time. "And you shouldn't. We lie for a living. But trust me, if I learn the CIA is going to double-cross you in some way, I'll tip you off. I owe you that much. Just make sure you have a plan to get out of the country and start a new life. I have one, and I work for them. Look, it won't happen. It's never happened before. At least not since the 90s. Do me a favor and just do it for a few years. 2 years is all I ask. If you don't like the way things are going, bail." So far, Ali had been true to his word. Despite that, DJ was nervous about a giant helicopter parking on his lawn. Whatever was going on, it must be big. He was sure Ali would have quite a story to tell. It wasn't Ali who dismounted from the chopper and headed in their direction. DJ didn't recognize him at all. He was tall and gangly, his limbs seeming slightly longer than they should be. His lengthy strides caused him to sway a bit as he walked. He had thick, curly black hair on his head, and his face was covered with even more of the stuff. Despite it all being neatly groomed, he had all the appearance of a spider monkey in a suit. The good news was that he was by himself. Aside from the 3 crew members for the Sea Stallion, he was alone. If the stranger had exited with a team of armed soldiers or people dressed like federal agents, DJ would have suspected the worst. DJ and the rest of his extended family, the only family DJ knew, stayed where they were. No one advanced to greet the newcomer with handshakes and smiles. They might have if Ali was coming to visit them. They liked Ali. As it was, they were on edge and ready for a fight. Spider Monkey advanced as the helicopter shut down behind him, striding through the tall grass in his black 2-piece suit. He barely slowed as he arrived at the boundary of the field, easily hopping over the split-rail fence separating the field from the main complex of the farm. It was then that DJ began to fully appreciate the man's size. Whoever this was coming to see them, he would look more at home on a professional basketball court than in the services of the CIA. If he was CIA. But who else could he work for? Few agencies have the ability to call up a naval Sea Stallion for use as a taxicab. There couldn't have been more than a few hundred of them in service. The man made his way straight to Brett. It was obvious he knew who was in charge. It wasn't the muscle-bound men and women who ran the show. It was the man in the wheelchair, and the stranger knew it. He sidestepped around the rest of the group to stand before Brett, leaning down with a polite smile and extending a hand. "The name's Seymour," he said. Behind Brett, Bradford Cashin, or Cash as he was known, eased closer. The man had worked in the FBI with Brett and was fiercely loyal to him. Brett did not shake the hand, nor return the smile. "Shouldn't that be Agent Seymour?" The man retracted his hand and stood straighter. He glanced at the others with a worried look on his face. Holding a single finger to his lips, he said, "Shh. No one's supposed to know that. Officially, I'm a scout for the LA Lakers." He smiled again. "You would be surprised how many people ask me if I'm a professional basketball player." Brett wasn't playing nice with Seymour. His distrust of the man was obvious. "ID," he commanded, holding out his hand. The man didn't move for a moment. He merely looked around the group, his fake smile fading from his woolly face as he sized them all up. "Fine," he said. "You would think with all the expensive gear that I know you have stashed around this place, you might want to add a smile or two to your inventory. Take it easy, guys. You don't want to bite the hand that feeds you." Brett was agitated, and he let it show, snapping his fingers as he continued to hold his hand out. "We don't know you. ID. Now." Spider Monkey nodded, surveying the group once more. "I got you. No problem." As he reached into his jacket, 7 hands shifted closer to 7 weapons. DJ held up a hand, signaling them to back off. Spider Monkey suddenly seemed genuinely concerned. "Easy now. I'm pulling out my phone. Please don't poke me full of holes. This is a new suit." He gingerly pulled forth a cell phone and held it up, showing them all. Brett's voice was stern as he addressed Spider-Monkey. "That's not an ID." Spider-Monkey looked at his phone as he answered. "And I will hand it over, too. But first I thought you might want verification of who I am from somebody you trust." He tapped a few buttons on his phone, and DJ could hear it dialing. While Seymour waited, he handed over his wallet. Agents for the CIA didn't carry a badge, but they did have an access card with a digital chip they used when not undercover. Brett flipped through the man's wallet and found it. He didn't pause to scrutinize it. He tossed it to Carbon and fired off a one-word command. "Authenticate." Carbon scanned the barcode on the back with his own phone and nodded to Brett a second later. "Seymour Sinclair, CIA. He needs to change his name, though. He sounds like a villain in a Bond movie." He tossed it back as someone on the other end of Spider-Monkey's call answered. The familiar voice of Ali carried across the space. "I'm busy. This had better be important." Seymour smiled at the phone, looking into the camera as he video-chatted Ali. "Life and death important." He turned the phone around and did a slow circle, showing Ali the group. "I have a feeling if I sneeze, these people are going to shoot me. You want to vouch for me, please? Fail to do so, and you'll have to read my eulogy in a few days." Ali laughed. "When you kick off, no one's going to eulogize you, Seymour. No one likes you that much. DJ, are you there?" DJ stepped forward, and Spider-Monkey aimed the phone in his direction. "I'm here, Ali. How come you're not the one coming to us?" Ali shrugged. "I'm busy with something else at the moment, and I guess your reputation precedes you. Look, I vouch for him. Don't trust him much, but he is who he says he is. If he's there to offer you a job, demand payment up front. Oh, and double your rate, just because you had to look at his face. Hey, Seymour, treat them right. I don't want to have to clean up any of your messes. Gotta go." The screen went black, and Spider-Monkey returned the phone to his jacket. Checking his watch, he said, "Look, I know we got off to a rocky start, but we're on the clock here." He pulled a portable drive from his other jacket pocket and tossed it over to Carbon. "You want to pull this up on a screen somewhere and let's talk? If you accept my offer, I'll need you to load onto the bird ASAP." Carbon looked at Brett for approval. Brett looked at DJ. DJ shrugged. 2 minutes later, they were all standing in the ops room of the barn, staring at a video wall and hearing what Seymour had to say. What he had to say was disturbing. He pointed to a picture of an older gentleman with neatly groomed gray hair and thin glasses. "Dr. Julius Abreu, a naturalized citizen originally from France. For the last 20 years, Dr. Abreu has been working on cold fusion. Now, in case you didn't know it, cold fusion is better than the typical kind of fusion in nuclear power plants or submarines. For one, there is no radioactive waste generated. We have been able to do this for a number of years now, but the issue has been with the containment of the reaction. The heat generated is too hot for any man-made material to withstand. We can create an energy field using superconducting magnets to solve that issue, but then you run into a whole other problem. The energy it takes to maintain the electromagnetic field is huge. You end up putting more energy into the system than the system can produce. Without going into details, Dr. Abreu recently solved this issue, or so he says. He hasn't got around to building the device to test it yet. Additionally, his design promises to make the reactor small enough to be portable. With his new method, if it works, we're talking the holy grail of energy production. You can have one in your house, your car, almost anywhere. No more use of fossil fuels. We're talking science fiction-like results. Dr. Abreu has been keeping all of his research and designs on a central drive and encrypting the data to prevent theft. Not only theft from a competitor, but theft from other countries. Yesterday, that device was stolen from the research facility where he works for the Department of the Navy. Carbon spoke first, raising his hand as if he were in a classroom. "Excuse me, but so what? I mean, wouldn't free, clean, unlimited energy benefit us all? Oh, let me guess. Oil execs are having fits with the idea and are using their cash to bribe politicians. That's why you're here, isn't it? You don't want us to just get it back. You want us to prevent the information from getting out to protect the fossil fuel industry." Spider-Monkey smiled and shook his head. 100% wrong. While he holds patents on the design, his intention has always been to release the data globally once proof of concept was complete. No, the issue is much more sinister than that. He turned back to the screen and tapped the control panel, bringing up a cascade of CAD renderings of a fantastical drawing of an aircraft that looked more like a pizza wedge. This is why the Navy was funding his research. The power creation portion was just the first step. It would be used to create a craft that could go underwater at incredible speeds, exit to fly through the atmosphere, and even leave orbit for spaceflight. He was building us a UFO. He paused and looked around the room. DJ wasn't sure what the others were thinking, but he felt as if he had been cast in a sci-fi movie. This was all a big joke, right? Spider-Monkey continued. "I know what you're thinking, and this is no joke. The energy from a portable cold fusion reactor could be harnessed to produce a non-polluting, high-output thrust for propulsion. It could also generate an energy field outside of the ship, similar to the one used to contain the reaction. That field would allow the ship to slip through our atmosphere at incredible velocities, as well as underwater. It could even be used to protect the hull from meteors and small debris encountered during spaceflight." Argo interrupted. "How fast, exactly?" Spider-Monkey shrugged. "No one knows for sure, but Dr. Abreu believes as much as 500 miles per hour underwater." A few in the room gasped in disbelief. "The field not only protects the ship in a sort of slippery bubble, but it reduces the gravitational mass of the ship inside." Carbon interrupted. "You're talking artificial gravity." Seymour shook his head. "Not in the science fiction way you're referring to it, no. But it does make it even easier for the propulsion system to make the thing move. In the atmosphere, we are talking speeds in excess of Mach 10. Outside our atmosphere, with reduced mass and in a vacuum, it would eventually make it to just under the speed of light. We could exit our solar system in days. We're more worried about the rest of these plans falling into the wrong hands than unlimited clean power generation." DJ finally couldn't take it anymore. "You've got to be kidding me. You can't really expect us to believe all of this. Spaceships and force fields? Anti-gravity? Now, come clean on why you're really here, or I'm going to let the team beat on you for a while." Spider-Monkey got real serious real fast. He shot a hard look at DJ. "Have your cyber jockey verify it." He then turned to Carbon. "Go ahead, look the guy up. I'll wait. Authenticate." Carbon blinked, then started tapping away on the tablet he carried with him everywhere. Spider-Monkey crossed his arms and watched, his long arms and tall body making him look ridiculous. He resembled more a cartoon drawing than a real person. It didn't take long before Carbon found what he was looking for and sent it to the big screen. Multiple news articles from entities that focused on science. The guy is legit. He's a real scientist and recently was approved for patents on everything Agent Seymour just said. But the patents are limited in detail and vague on the drawings. I see multiple references from several physicists who seriously question his claims. Spider-Monkey addressed Brett directly. "I know how it all sounds. It's far-fetched, I get it. And who knows if he really overcame the issues like he said he did. But just a few hours after he notified the Navy he had solved the problems in the design, the drive was stolen. I'll tell you this as well. This guy, Dr. Abreu, he's already come through for us on several things the public doesn't know about. But here's one you do. Hypersonic missile technology? That was him. He came up with the design one afternoon on a coffee break. His doodles were on a napkin, and I'm not even kidding you. While the Pentagon was dragging their knuckles on it, the design was stolen. How do you think the Chinese and Russians beat us to the punch on that? So, knowing the guy's reputation, can we really afford to let our enemies get their hands on these designs? The room went silent, everyone looking at each other. It was Brett who broke the ice. So, how do you expect us to help you? Something this big. I'm sure you have much more useful assets than our small team. Seymour nodded. And we've already learned a lot in the short time it's been since the theft. For one, it was a freelance team contracted by the North Koreans who pulled this off. While we're not sure where they are at the moment, we do know where they are going to be. Our intel says the team plans to hand off the drive to North Korean agents. We have the coordinates for the location and the time for the handoff. It was Brett's turn. So then why don't you go there and get them? Why do you need us? And for that matter, why don't the thieves just digitally transfer the information? Spider-Monkey seemed ready for the question. The drive is encrypted, as I said. It's likely the team who stole it doesn't even understand how it works. And if the North Korean scientists get their hands on it, they'll discover they don't have the resources to make that happen. The encryption is biologically based. You need an active connection to Dr. Abreo's brain. Everybody's brain waves are unique and extraordinarily complex. The man has to physically connect to the drive in order to get to the data. And while we're pretty sure North Koreans can't work around that, it doesn't mean it's not possible. You would need a quantum computer to work through the issue. They don't have one. But once they reach that conclusion, they'll just turn around and sell it to someone who does have the expertise and the hardware. The Chinese come to mind, and they share a border. As to your other question, the meeting will take place in Russia, about 50 miles from where the Chinese, North Korean, and Russian borders converge. While we have assets in Russia that could get there, they would be greatly outnumbered and without the combat assets to get the job done. Our plan is to airdrop you over the Sea of Japan. We'll have a sub pick you up. The Vermont will get you as close to the shore as possible. From there, you will infill by rib with a SEAL team for escort. You will make your way 5 miles in from the coast and be waiting to ambush them when the bad guys show up. Exfil to the same location, and the SEALs will get you back to the sub. So, are you in? The clock is ticking, and we need to get a move on if we're going to get there ahead of the handoff. To sweeten the deal, we'll pay you double the normal rate, as Agent Ali suggested. Brett shook his head, unconvinced. We need a lot more information than that before I'll greenlight this. Seymour nodded. I understand that, but as I said, time's a-wasting. Look, get your team on the bird and head it in the right direction. We can work out any details while we're in the air. At any time prior to your jump, you decide to bail on this, then do so. We can't make you. Our fallback plan will be to send the SEALs in anyway. We prefer for there not to be a U.S. military incursion into Russia, but we'll do it if we have to. Everyone looked at Brett. Brett shot DJ a questioning look. DJ shrugged. It took them less than 15 minutes to load onto the Sea Stallion and leave Mother Earth. DJ wasn't going to lie to himself. He was a bit nervous about this gig. He wasn't overly fond of short-notice deals with missing information. Dooley, on the other hand, was as happy as a clam. They needed his sniper skills, so DJ skipped the formality of the remaining week of training. Dooley was now on the team. Besides, unless he had screwed up in some major way, the kid was going to pass. It would be good to have a sniper with his skills watching their back. Like normal, Carbon was along for the ride as their on-site tech support. Abby and Brett would hang back and offer support from a distance. Carbon was less than useless in a firefight, but he was good to have around anyway. The trick would be hurling him out of an airplane. Their geeky team member had never jumped before. Since the landing was in water, he could just strap to someone else and jump tandem. DJ couldn't wait to see the guy's face when the door opened.